All right, everybody. I have been I've been telling you all that I was going to show you the stretches, especially the hip flexor and the glute stretch. And then I just taped the live noon workout, and it's a perfect time for me to teach it because, frankly, I don't like you shouldn't do deep stretches sorry, I just finished the workout, I'm still stupid. You shouldn't do deep stretches with cold muscles. So post-workout is when you want to be doing this. I just invited the nice little class we had at noon over to here if they want to join me. But so this is what you want to sort of burn it into your head. Treating pre-workout and post-workout have different objectives. So what I'm going to teach you here isn't great for most of it, some of it. Some of the spine stuff, yes. Most of the deep muscle stretching, not what you do before workouts. Okay, so everything you see here is after your body is very hot and limber, all right? One of the words of advice for stretching, you're not gonna make a difference to big muscles unless you stretch for weeks, okay? Don't expect glutes and hip flexors to change like that. They are really big muscles that are very strong, and tend to get very, very tight. They are not going to be fixed in one day of stretching. This is not, let me go run and see the scale and see if I lost weight today. No, this is observe it over time. I'm somebody who's very flexible and also very tight. Now, it sounds like that would be a strange oxymoron, but it's very possible. I can bend over and put my palms flat to the ground, okay? I also, when I'm warm, I'm a pretty tight person and run into a lot of muscular stuff if I don't take care of this. So a word for the wise, if you don't want to be like me a lot of my life, move and stretch, and don't just do strength training and then run into your car and get cold and tighten up, because I've done that a lot and it doesn't work. So let's get right to it, because what you all came to do is actually stretch. I don't have a cameraman, so I'm going to have to do my best at trying to get this thing down to the ground. So, all right, so hip flexors, let's talk about them. These guys I talked about in the post the other day, if there's one muscle that isn't stretched enough, and often not even known, except if you're a client of mine, is the hip flexor. So they're actually a bundle of a couple different muscles. I only remember the name of one of them. One of them is called the psoas. And they are so that if you point to the front of your hip, this is your front of your pelvic bone. If you go just inside of the pelvic bone into where your groin is, right around your belt line for men, I guess women, yeah. That is your psoas muscle. So this little thing, when we sit, your hip flexors, your psoas, and the ones that go laterally around the outside all get shortened. So what do we do a lot in our lifestyle? We sit a lot. And so they get shortened all day. And a lot of you, like me, I sleep on my side with my knee up most of the time. So I'm a lot of the day spent in flexion in my hip joint, meaning I go to stand up, here's the problem. You go to stand up, and what it does is this is still too tight, so it tends to round I'm going to exaggerate. You see that rounding in my low back? That's not good. Yes, you want some rounding, but you need your butt to be able to tuck under you. That little rounding is fine. This rounding, I'm trying to exaggerate here, is not good. So basically, the psoas, the hip flexors, yank your spine forward, and it is not happy time when you do that. My preference for stretching the psoas is kneeling. I'm going to show you standing in case you don't like kneeling, because some of you it hurts to kneel. So I'm going to show you standing, and then I'm going to do it kneeling. Take a long stride like a lunge, make a fist, put it right in your tailbone, okay? Longer stride is a little easier to do this. It's not a lunge, so go longer than a lunge. Now I'm going to sink my weight straight down, 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 and I'm going to, the fist reminds me to keep my tailbone, so if you imagine your tailbone, it reminds me to keep my tailbone tucked like that. Because the second I let my butt stick out, I'm not getting my hip flexors. So you can sink down like that, or do it my preferred way. Kneel, again, stride out a little bit longer. Make the fist to remind you to push with your tailbone. And now drive that hip forward and stay nice and tall for me. Okay? We want to stay nice and tall through this while we tuck our butt under us. Some people say they feel it down in their quads. That's because your quads are way too heavy. Because your quads are way too tight. You should feel this right in front of the hip and in the groin. Okay? So that is where you're going to feel it. If you're very flexible, I need a yoga mat to do this because it's not easy. I actually like to get a quad stretch and a hip flexor stretch at the same time by doing that. That doesn't feel very nice on this flooring. So, but again, how to get into position. Kneel, take a long stride, fist goes to the tailbone, drive forward from your hip, stay nice and tall. Do not let your belly stick out, okay? Now here's the thing, and you can stay in that stretch while I talk if you're doing it. I can't see you, obviously, this isn't Zoom. You don't make any difference to these guys stretching them for 10 seconds. These are not 10-second stretching muscles. These are 30 to 60-second stretching muscles. Think yoga, think long poses, think long holds. You might pour sweat stretching after a workout. It's a great feeling. It's very good stuff is happening. You're not gonna loosen these little buggers up by 10-second holds, up, switch, I'm done, that's it. No, you gotta really hold them. So what I just demoed was proper form, nowhere near long enough to get results, okay? So you are welcome if you're watching at home and doing it along with me if you just worked out to stay in that stretch for a good 30 seconds, okay? And if anybody has any questions, you can post it below and I can try to answer it. I don't think any questions have come up. So that is your hip flexors, okay? There is another way to do this, just for fun. Probably not a chair, but a couch. You stand up, you put that knee up against the corner of the couch, okay? Your foot gets to stay there, and now I get to drive that hip forward, okay? Same, they all work on the same mechanism, right? I'm standing nice and tall and driving the hip bone straight forward, okay? This one, I love. I can't do it when I'm neglecting my stretching, but I have been stretching these days, so I can do it. But that is not for beginners. That's for probably my more flexible, nimble people to get to that. Because you've got to have a lot more mobility in the quad and the hip flexor. But it's a good goal for a lot of you, all right? So that's hip flexor, that's number one. Number two, hamstring. My basic way, there's a lot of ways to stretch hamstrings. You can do it sitting in a straddle, you can do it sit and reach. I prefer what I call the soccer stretch, because when I did soccer, this is what we did. Cross your leg over and walk down. Okay, so you're gonna isolate one hamstring at a time. Your hamstring, what goes from your butt to the back of your knee, okay? So that guy, look, hamstring and glutes are the primary drivers of your kettlebell swing. If you do kettlebells, you gotta do this, all right? So I'm gonna cross over, I'm gonna walk down, I'm gonna try, I'm gonna go down till it feels like a nice pull, but no further than I can. And because, as I said, I'm pretty warmed up right now, I can get my fingers to the floor, and if I sit in this long enough, I can get my palms to the floor. Okay, and again, I'm going to come up out of this a little bit faster because I'm more here trying to rifle through these moves, but you want to hold these guys. Think, again, all your leg muscles, big muscles, okay? Biggest muscles in your body. Long holds. Long holds. Sit with it, breathe, let the muscle relax. Breathe, don't force it, ease into it. Every once in a while, take a breath in and hold. Actually, I'm going to show you how this works, okay? So let's say I got down into that stretch. I've hung out there for a while, okay? I might take a breath in and hold and then relax. Watch me. Okay, I don't know if you could see that, but when I took a breath in, I clenched my belly, and then I breathed out, I was able to drop about 2 more inches into that stretch. And you can do that and then hang out there, and then take a breath and drop and hang out there. That's how I work myself down to my palms. Again, your goal is not to get your palms flat to the ground. Your goal is to elongate the hamstring when it's nice and warm, get into that stretch and hold it for 30 to 45 to 60 seconds. I say the longer is better with the stretches. Okay, so that's hip flexors, that's hamstrings. Now we got to get glutes. I go back and forth on glutes. I will tell you glutes are the ones that I have the toughest time stretching. Sometimes I can stretch and stretch and stretch, it doesn't do a damn thing, and I gotta go get that lacrosse ball and sit on it, and it freaking hurts like hell. I just, sometimes when I neglect stretching, I can't even get them loosened up from just stretching. So find the worst spot in your butt, like where you'd sit, find in your cheek where that bundle of muscle is, sit on a lacrosse ball or put it up against the wall. It ain't fun, but it works. Okay. Here's 2 other options. Now, if you're a yoga teacher like Ashley, I apologize if this isn't 100% true, but I'm trying to see where you can see this. Pigeon is one of the great ways to get the glute. So look, if you're not flexible enough, you can have this knee fanned out like this, but the goal is to actually straighten that back leg. The front leg is bent in front of you. My chest needs to be over top of my kneecap. A lot of times people come off to the side here, okay? You probably can't. So, yeah, so look at me. My chest needs to be straight over my kneecap. A lot of times people come off to the side, you're bailing on your butt and you're just sort of out in la-la land. So, I want to lay forward, I want to sink my weight up into the front of that knee, and now I'm gonna feel that nice stretch right up in that big butt muscle, which is a bugger when you do kettlebell swings for a living. So why don't you all hang out there for a bit, okay? Knee bent, chest right over the kneecap. Put the weight of your upper body right on top of that leg. And I think, I'm not a yoga teacher, so I apologize. I think your butt is allowed to come up off that mat a little bit, okay? To my knowledge. All right? So that is the pigeon stretch. The other option is what I believe they call a figure four. And I learned a new way to do this where you actually put your foot on a wall. But figure four, sometimes I find a little easier than pigeon. I'm going to sit like cross one leg across the other. And I'm not going to reach this leg. I'm going to reach through and grab the far leg and pull straight towards my chest. And again, if you do this with me, just like pigeon, you should feel it in that the more 90-degree bend knee here in that cheek. Okay, so I'm going to grab that through to the far knee and pull it towards my face while sort of keeping my core in a hollow position, right? So crunched a little bit in that core, right? That's your figure four stretch, I believe it's called, or pigeon. Those are your two options for your chest. Now look, everybody should be doing thoracic rotations and cat-cow before you work out, but guess what? Everybody should be doing thoracic rotations and cat-cow after workouts too. This is not a stretch, it's a mobility exercise that everybody should do all the time. We sit too much, we sit in what's called flexion, meaning crappy posture, right? Cell phone, computer, right? This posture. We need to teach the spine to get to both flexion and extension, okay? So, cat-cow is your friend. Do it early and often, okay? I'm on all fours. I'm going to push, the area I'm working is between my shoulder blades. I'm going to tuck my tailbone, bend my head, and push my shoulder blades to the sky. So I'm really trying to take this top third of my spine, shove it to the ceiling. Now I'm going to breathe out, relax my shoulder blades, and push. So I'm going to try to arch through the entire spine. It helps if you look up. Okay, again, project shoulder blades to the sky, and chest to the floor. Get long and curl. Okay, so I just did a bunch of them because I could tell my upper back doesn't feel that good right now. All right, so anybody who has neck or shoulder issues or doesn't want to have neck or shoulder issues should do cat-cow, and then the next one I'm going to talk about thoracic rotations all the time, okay? Because what tends to happen is when we aren't mobile in that upper back and we go to press and our upper back won't move, we end up getting to a very unpleasant position. So I have a client walking in right now, so I'm gonna have to wrap this up. Let me show you the last move and then we'll move on, okay? So that's cat-cow. The last move is our thoracic rotations. I'll be like 1 minute, okay. All right, so I'm gonna lie in fetal position on my side, all right? Knees have to be up. If my knees creep to straight like this, I'm gonna lose what I'm trying to work on, okay? Knees have to be up, 90-degree bend at the hip, okay? So I'm in fetal position. This arm and these knees have to stay pinned to the floor. The goal is to take this opposite shoulder, breathe out, and take it to the floor, but I can't get there. You're not forcing it. So you're gonna return to center, rotate out as far as you can go naturally. Try to breathe out as you rotate out, okay? When you get to here, try to breathe out and see if that doesn't take you a little bit further. I'd shoot for like 8 to 10 reps per side. This is lost if the knee has to pop up off the ground. I want to stop when I get as far as I can without this happening. This is no good. This has to stay down. So if I'm 6 inches off the floor with my hand, which is what I am, that's where I am, okay? I'm not gonna try to force it. This isn't as much a stretch as it is a joint mobility. So your goal with your spine, keep your spine moving. I studied with a great yoga teacher like a year or two ago, and she always said a healthy spine is a healthy person. Like, she really believed the vitality of the spine, the mobility of a spine is imperative. I completely agree by my own anecdotal advice of my own life. If you get stronger, which is every one of your goal, but you don't keep your spine mobile, you're asking for long-term problems. You're asking for something else to get injured. Your shoulder, your neck, your low back, they go when your spine is immobile or your core is weak or both, okay? So that's your goal. Hips, hip flexors, glutes, hamstrings, and then the 2 spine mobility drills. I also could add some things. I'm a big fan, because I tend to get really tight here, of grabbing the elbow, pulling back and across like that. Okay, I do this a lot, or I actually put it up to a wall and I push my weight into that wall, and that really helps my triceps and my lat. I tend to get very tight, so getting into this position sometimes can be tough for me. So if that's true for you, any problems along here, stretch back up and across your body, okay? Put it behind your head, grab the elbow, and pull back and across, okay? Also, if you have any pec issues, you can put yourself in a door frame or put one arm on a door on a wall. This is good for anybody with pec issues or rounded shoulders. One hand on a wall, and I'm gonna twist away from it, okay? So here, I play with the angle, a little higher feels right to me, and now I'm gonna take my chest and twist away from that wall. If you've done a lot of floor press or push up, that's another good one. Again, if you have very rounded forward shoulders, you need to constantly work on keeping that open up. Okay? That's it for now, folks. Lots to work on. Take your stretches seriously. Do it for a couple weeks till you really assess whether or not you're making positive changes. And let me know if you have any questions. Thanks. Bye-bye.